Hello, welcome back to Big Fellas. It's Mark here on my own today. Unfortunately, Darren can't make it. Today, we've got another fantastic loser story. A gentleman called Josh Deegan. He's lost 60 kilos, which is about 9.5 stone. Incredible effort. Let's jump in and say hello to Josh. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. So yeah, Josh, you are a Man v Fat Hall of Famer. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, that is correct. It's a bit weird being called that, I'll be honest. But I was really pleased to get the letter last year. Both invited me down to Goodison Park to do some filming for the 10-year anniversary, and then after that, getting the actual invite. Getting the letter that said, yeah, we're going to induct you as one of the first 10 into the Hall of Fame. So I've got my shirt. It's not behind me. It's in my little hallway. So I walk past that every day. It's a nice little reminder of what I can do when I put my mind to it. Really.
Absolutely. What an achievement. So those that are maybe not familiar, just tell us a bit about your background with Man v Fat.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I joined the Manchester League in 2017. So the way that came about is literally I tried various different things sort of over the years from childhood, right the way up to adulthood. Never really committed to it. Would lose a few pounds, put it back on, a temptation to sort of kick back in again. And then I got to the age of 25 and I was like, if I don't do something now, I probably won't be here in 5 years' time, to see 30. That was the reality of it because we're so big. And then one night I was just having a doom scroll on Facebook, as you do, and I saw this advert for Man v Fat Football, the football side of it. And in the advert, I've said this before, in the advert there were two guys who looked like me. They were a similar size to me, playing football, smiles on their face, enjoying it. I was like, well, what's this about? So I clicked on the link, had a bit of a read of it, weight loss league specifically for overweight men. Weight lost weekly would go towards goals scored off the pitch and on the pitch. I thought it was just a really great incentive, a really good way of doing it. A big sort of selling point for me was the fact that it was just for men. Because I've been to things before where there was women in prison, and obviously as a young man, it can be quite overwhelming, that, especially like when I was going sort of during my childhood and my teens, I was going to these sort of things, being dragged to them against my own will, actually. But this time it was different, because I wanted to do it for myself. I think that's a big thing, and I know we'll sort of touch on that later. But I wanted to do it for myself. So when I read about that, and I thought, yeah, this could be something to go for, that's when I decided to sort of take a bit of a leap of faith, really, and sign up for it. So that was on a Sunday night, last thing before I went to bed, really. I was like, pay the registration fee, forgot about it, thought I'll probably get some sort of correspondence, later on. And then the morning, I got an email from them saying the Manchester League was full. I'd have to wait for someone to drop out. And I was like, oh, right, okay. So I was a bit annoyed. I was a bit peeved at that, because I thought, well, I paid me £10 registration fee. I'm gonna get back in touch with them and get my money back. Because I'm a bit annoyed that I've got to wait. I'd like to join this now. And before we had a chance to do so, the coach, fantastic lady called Sven, that's not a real name, that's just a nickname. She phoned me up that evening and said, as luck would have it, we've got a spot on the white team. Can you make it tonight? It's in Fallowfield, which is in Manchester, the Armitage Centre there. Can you come down for this time for your first weigh-in and your first game and get started? And I just said, yeah, let's do it. There's no time like the present. Went down on my first game. Found it tough, found it hard. I haven't done any sort of exercise for a long time, but that was the start of it all. That I've said, if you watch the video that I did at Goodison Park, I've said the very first sentence, I think, is everything good that has happened in my life happened since that first weigh-in. And it all goes back to that. It all goes back to that day.
It's a statement in
Yeah,
itself, that, isn't it?
and it is. It's a fact. It's an absolute fact. Everything good that's ever happened and everything that's come since has happened because of that day. So I've got a lot to thank them for. I really have.
Give us some example then. So some of the good that's come from that day.
Oh well, I mean, the one of the biggest things is I'm in my own place. In fact, no, I'll tell you the biggest thing is the fact that I'm still alive. because I think if I hadn't done it, I think my weight would have killed me. That's
Right.
that's the sort of reality of it. You know, I was 20, as I said, I was 25 years old, and I was 25 stone. I was 160 kilos,
Yeah.
and if that had carried on, you know, I'd have been 30 stone at 30, and then I'm in real danger then. Um, you know, I never really got tested, but my family have a history of diabetes, so I was probably pre-diabetic. You know, as once I actually lost the weight, I got a diagnosis of celiac disease. So it's actually, ironically, Celiac Awareness Month this month in May. But that's where you can't eat like wheat or gluten. So it's a proper autoimmune disease. But I know I suffered with that a long time before being diagnosed. The only reason it never came to the fore was because ironically enough, I couldn't get a blood test done because my arm was too big to find a vein. So when I went to go and get the test done, the nurse was searching for ages like, I can't find a decent vein because my arm was just too thick. And out of sheer embarrassment, I left. I never went back until I ended up ill in the hospital. So yeah, there's that as well. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. Yeah, but like I've got, I say, you know, I'm still here, which is a big thing. I mean, I managed to get myself into the career and the job field that I've always wanted. I work for a charity. I love that. I help people every day. It's all I've ever wanted to do is to do something where I help people that has a real purpose. So I'm doing that. I've got my own place, got a roof over my head. So it's everything has come from that first day.
Awesome. That's really, really awesome. I love that. So yeah, so you're in the Man v Fat Hall of Fame. Tell us what
Yep.
that means to you then. What does it take to get that kind of recognition?
It means a lot, and it really did. It really does mean a lot. And like I said before, you know, at the start, initially I got a random phone call off Richard Crick, who I believe has been a guest before.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave me a phone call sort of towards the end of sort of mid October last year, um, and he explained about the fact that Man v Fat as a whole was turning 10 years. I think Man v Fat football's 10 next year, but Man v Fat as a whole was 10 last year. And he said as part of it, we're doing some profiles on people. We're doing 10 profiles. We've done 10 people from the south. Now we're doing 10 from the north. The 10 from the south have been to Wembley. They've been filmed there. The 10 from the north, we're invited to Goodison Park in November, the 1st of November. Are you free? Do you want to be part of it? And I was like, that. I mean, that was a real big thing in itself. I was like, absolutely, yeah, you know, I'll do that. That's not a problem. So that was, I was getting some correspondence about all of that. And then in the meantime of that, someone else, I've forgotten the name now, apologies, but somebody else from within Man v Fat emailed me asking for my address, which I thought was a bit strange at first. They said, we've just got something that we need to send you in letter form as opposed to email. And I thought it was something to do with the filming. So I wasn't aware about any sort of induction to any sort of Hall of Fame. I didn't even know that was a thing at that point. But yeah, a couple of days passed, about a week or so passes, and I get this letter in the post, and I read it. It's like letter headed Man v Fat. Open it up, and that's what it had. I've actually got the letter. I'll grab it. So I've got the letter here with, I don't know where we can sort of see that there, Man v Fat football on. And it says, you know, I'll read a bit of it out, not all of it. But it says, as you probably know, this year we celebrated 10 years. So to celebrate the milestone, we're closing the 10th anniversary by launching the Hall of Fame, a place where we can recognise some of the shining lights in our community who've gone above and beyond to impact the journey of Man v Fat and ultimately bring better and healthier lives to the men we support. So it says here, I was one of 25 individuals that was longlisted by the HQ team for outstanding contributions to Man v Fat over the last 10 years. That sounds really like complicated and diligent, that, doesn't it? And then they did a follow-up vote, and as part of the follow-up vote, I was part of the first 10 to be inducted last year. So I imagine there'll be more this year. How many more, I don't know. But yeah, being part of the first 10 was amazing, and they sent me a lovely frame shirt in the post, which arrived near my birthday last year. It was a massive big thing. I was like, where the hell am I going to put that? But I managed to sort of sound out a space in my hallway that, as I say, I put it up just after Christmas. And when I get home from work, when I get in from anywhere now, I walk past it. Even when I get up in the morning, it's the first thing I see. And like I say, it's a reminder that, you know, put your mind to it. You can do absolutely anything.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant. Okay, then. So I guess we should really talk about your weight loss journey.
Okay.
So what was your starting weight, and where are you now?
So starting weight was, and again, this is a figure I will never forget. So it was 159.2 kilos. So round it up, it's 160 if you want to do that. And now, so I weighed myself last week, and I was lowest that I've been for a while. Actually, I was 99.6, so just a little bit over 60. But yeah, I sort of float between that and like 98. That's where I sort of like to be. Um, so
How tall
yeah,
are you for context?
what's that, sorry?
How tall are you for context?
Oh, I'm quite tall actually. Yeah, I'm like 194 centimeters, which is like 6'3", 6'4". So I am quite
Yeah,
tall.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's weird because when people that I've spoken to in the past who've obviously known me before and know me now, um, they always said like we would never have had you down for being that big because I wore it well. Because I was so tall, I wore it quite well. I don't think I did, but they say that about it. They said, oh, you wore it quite well, but I feel and I look a lot better for losing it. So yeah, it's mad because the first 50 I lost a year to the day. So that first session that I talked about a moment ago, that was on the 19th of Feb 2017. And by the 20th of Feb 2018, that was when I'd done the 50. Literally, they did that weigh-in on the 20th of Feb, which would obviously be a year and 1 day because of obviously it shifts forward a day on the Monday. Yeah, that's when I stepped on and looked, and it said, instead of saying 159, it said 109, 109.1, I think it was. And I was like, oh, wow, I've done it. In a year, I've got to where I wanted to be. And I was going to stop there. I was going to stop after 50. That was my ultimate target, my ultimate goal. But I had a couple of conversations with nurses and nutritionists, dietitians, because of part of my celiac, I have to see a dietitian every 6 months. And they said, just for like a BMI sort of perspective, I mean, ironically, I'm still classed as overweight when it comes to BMI. Well, they said, just get that down as much as we can. I would recommend to do another between 7 and 10 kilo. So I did that a little bit slower, a little bit more. I just sort of took the gas off a little bit with that, um, and did more gym work around it to sort of tone up um, and get that side of it, as opposed to going absolutely hell for leather, which I did for a year, really.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like that. Okay, so what worked best for you in your weight loss journey?
Um, well, we had a sort of pre-conversation, didn't we? You asked me this, and I remember saying that I winged it, which I know your listeners probably don't want to hear. But I didn't wing it. There was elements that I winged because it's a lot of trial and error. That's all it is. It's a lot of trial and error. But you know, I knew, and people in general know what's good for them and what's not good for them. So I sort of looked at it and went, okay, I'm finishing work and I'm buying 3, 4 cakes. I stopped doing that for a start. Instead of having a sandwich and a full fat Coke and a packet of crisps for my dinner at work every day, I'll have a wrap and an apple and a water. And it was just that making them little changes. Stuff that I've said before. It was all these little changes that I made, and the little changes added up to the big change. And that was the big. That's the thing. That's all. And again, I said this in my video that I recorded at Goodison Park. I wasn't focused on how much I had to lose. I didn't know how much I wanted to lose when I first signed up. It was a case of if I turn up next week and I weigh less than I did, if I turn up next week and I weigh less than I did this week, job done. That's all I need to focus on. If I turn up next week, if it's 100 grams, if it's a kilo, if it's 2 kilos, great. As long as it doesn't say more, and as long as it doesn't say the same, job done. If it stays the same, then great, that's fine. It shows that I'm doing something right in terms of keeping it and maintaining it. But every week it was like, if I turn up next week and it stays less, that's all that I need to focus on. And eventually spiraled and spiraled and spiraled and got to where I am now. So that's my biggest tip for anyone who's a current member or thinking of joining. You might sort of look at it and you might feel a bit overwhelmed. You might think, oh God, I've got 5, 6, 7 stone, 10 stone to lose. But if you turn up one week and you weigh X amount and you turn up the week after and that's a little bit less, that's your job done. That's all you should focus on. And it's those little changes, as I say, little changes, tiny little bits to your diet. A lot of people go hell for leather. And that's one thing that I didn't do actually. in the first couple of sort of weeks of it, I didn't really think, right, this is it. I need to go hell for leather. I just made these little sort of changes. And then when I turned up the second week that I was there, and I think I lost, 2.5 kilo in the first week, I was like, okay, whatever I've done this week's work, so I'll do it again next week. And that's all it was. And every week I would make a little bit of a change, do one thing a little bit different. And in the year that I did it, out of like 50 odd weigh-ins, I think there was only 2 where I put weight on. One of them was because I went to my auntie's 50th, so I knew that I was going to have, you know, a bit of crap to eat, as it were. And I knew that I'd end up having a few drinks and having a good time at that. So I was prepared for that. I was prepared for that weekend to have an effect on the Monday. But I think there was only one other time when it went up by about 200 gram, and I was just like, oh well, I'll get it off next week, and I did. And again, that's another thing, if you do have weeks where it's not so good, it's important not to panic and just hit that reset button and then go back the week after and be like, right, it's off now. What was I worried about?
Like I said, it's your weight is just a moment in time.
Yes.
It's not the beginning. It's not the end. It's just
Mm.
where you're at that point. The
Yeah.
next
And
week is going to be different.
you shouldn't be defined by it.
No.
Like I said, then you shouldn't, people might step into, into Man v Fat or other incentives. And they might feel overwhelmed, as I say, they might think, oh God, I've got, so much to lose. I don't know how I'm going to do it. But, like you say, it doesn't define you. It is just a moment in time. And, this time next year, you could well have done it if you just take things step by step and little by little.
But what was it about Man v Fat that made this work for you? What role did Man v Fat play?
Yeah, I think I've already said the fact it's men only was a big thing. And it's weird because I think at the time when I was in the Manchester League, I think I was either the youngest or one of the youngest at 25. I was certainly the youngest on my team, but it was fine because you get set up, and I think they still do this where they put you into a WhatsApp group with your teammates. So immediately you've got that banter and you've got that shared goal. There's lads there, and every single one of them are there for the same thing, and that's massive. That's a huge, huge thing. It's having that support network with the WhatsApp groups as well, even with the weigh-ins and your coach. It's just creating that support network. And it's football, people, sport, and people are brought together by football and by sport. It's a bit, it can play, sport and football. That team effort and the team aspect of it is a big, big thing that, bringing people together for that shared vision and that shared goal of wanting to do well and being spurred on by them. It was a big thing. And even as much as it's a league and it's competitive, and people want to win and they want to score goals and they want to win the title and they want to win the biggest loser, and and other people essentially are the competition. It's still their supportive. It's still a really good supportive environment, and even people from other teams were sort of looking at me, going, "Bloody hell! Like, you're doing really well here. Like, keep at it." And that was a big thing. It was a real, real big thing. So yeah, it's all of that and so much more, really.
Yeah, no, I like that. Going to sort of touch on sort of the mental side of your weight loss,
Yeah.
and how's your mental health and mindset changed since losing the weight?
So now, at this moment in time, it's the best it's ever been, I would say. In terms of my body and how I feel about my body, it's great. Initially, though, it wasn't. And again, this is something that I detailed in the video that I did. Um, so when you lose that amount of weight as quickly as I did, and being as big as I was as well, there was excess skin involved. I didn't have it anywhere near as bad as you might see on some social media accounts. And people who do have these extreme losses, I didn't have it anywhere near as bad as that. My arms were actually very, very okay. My legs were fine. Did a lot of walking. I have to because I'm not allowed to drive because of my eyesight, and again, I'll get into that later if needs be. But I did a lot of walking. So I did start lifting weights. I got to about 5 stone in. I started lifting weights, and that helped in terms of sort of shaping me and shaping my arms. The area that it affected the most was around the torso. So when I looked in the mirror, that's what I saw, and I kept seeing the old me, and that was sort of like the constant reminder. Rather than sort of own it, because a lot of people do own their excess skin that I see on social media, and a lot of people refuse to get it looked at because they're like, no, this is my battle scars, and I'll live with this. It's better than living as I was. But for me, it was destroying me, to be honest, every day. It was just that constant sort of reminder. And I wanted something doing about it. I really wanted something doing about it. So obviously, as I say, 2017 and 2018 is when I lost the majority of it. A little bit more came off in 2018 to 19. And 2019, that's when I spoke to a dietitian as part of my celiac checkup. At the end of my checkup with her, she said, "Have you got any sort of other questions?" I said, "Well, yeah, actually, I have. You've seen it on your records of my weight records over the years. You've seen how big I was. You've seen what I've got to now." I said, "There is this problem." I was just showing her, and she was like, "Okay." I said, I'm beside myself with it. I feel like in order to feel like I've done it and that I have achieved it, and to move on, really, I would like to get it removed." So I asked her about private. I said, "Where?" I said, "Does Aspire Hospital in Manchester, do they do it? Is there anywhere I can go?" I said, "One place I would not go though would be Turkey. There's no way I was going to go to Turkey and get it done." Because people said that to me. So, "Oh, just go to Turkey and get it done. They're cheap." I was like, "Not a chance. No way I'm going there." I said, "If I get it done, and if I get it done privately, I get it done here." And I was prepared, genuinely prepared, to sacrifice my house deposit, my flat deposit. I was prepared to just rent forevermore if I had to, if it meant having this done because I felt as though I needed it. So the dietitian, she said, "Right, we can put you in touch with a plastics team at Withenshaw Hospital. They can hopefully invite you in for a checkup and see what they can do." So I was waiting a long time for that because obviously COVID hit. So I was waiting about 2 years just for the checkup to see what potentially they could do. And I went to that and saw a gentleman who eventually would become my surgeon for the operation. He checked over it. He said, "Yeah, there's something we can do about that." And he actually urged me to stop killing myself in the gym with crunches and ab work and that sort of thing. He said, because no matter how much work you do, it's only surgery is going to get rid of that. I was like, "Okay, fair enough. I'll focus on other things. I'll sort of keep an eye on everything. But if that's the case, then I'm prepared to play the waiting game even more." So that was 2021. Again, looked at options to pay for it privately. They were saying that the wait times for that would be very similar because they had a COVID backlog as well. And I sort of forgot about it really, but at the same time was like, something needs to give, something needs to give. And then mid 2020, about around this time in 2023, random phone call off the hospital. "We'd like to invite you in for your pre-op." Went along to that, had it done, and then by the end of October, so Halloween, funnily enough, was when I went down 2023, had the operation done. And honestly, it has had the biggest effect. Like physically, obviously, it's there for all to see, but mentally, it's done absolute wonders for me. It's made me feel like I've done it, and that I can move on, and that I can start to shape myself now in the way that I've always wanted to be. When I look in the mirror now, I don't see the old me. I'm not reminded by that anymore. Obviously, the scar's there, and I'm always going to be reminded of what I went through to get to that point. But the scar doesn't bother me. It doesn't hurt. I'm not, when I'm at the gym and I'm getting changed or what have you, I'm not bothered by other people seeing it because it looks beyond what I ever imagined it to look like. Yeah, when I saw it for the first time, it was quite a moment. Really, it was like, this is it now. I can crack on with everything, and feel a lot better about things and about myself. And honest to God, the last 18 months since having it done, well, 20 months it is now, since having it done and since returning to exercise and getting back in the gym, yeah, it's been a complete sort of mindset change again. Yeah, so there you go, in a long roundabout way.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Okay. And so on the whole mindset thing, how has your relationship with food changed over this time?
Yeah, it's massive, that I think because you speak to anyone who's ever lost a significant amount of weight, they'll probably tell you that their relationship with food has changed dramatically. Portion size is probably the biggest thing. Before I used to just eyeball it, put it on. Yeah, that looks big enough to satisfy me. Eyes bigger than your belly, sort of thing. And you just eat it because it's there in front of you. Whereas now I weigh out everything. It's something I've only started doing in the last sort of 18 months or so. But, I weigh out everything, track everything. Tracking was something that I actually did. You asked me before about methods. Tracking was something that I did whilst I was at Man v Fat, but only in the books that you got. I never did it on anything like MyFitnessPal or NutriCheck or anything like that. I wasn't really like, like some people are really strict with calories and macros and that sort of thing. That was something that, again, over the last 18 months I've gotten into as I try to shape myself following my operation, and start to sort of build up some proper muscle and everything. So yeah, it's all of that changes your relationship with food. It has to. As I mentioned before about the little changes, it was those little changes that I brought in. Just have a little bit of fruit or veg with your dinner or with your evening meal. Just try something new once a week, maybe. Just little things like that, and when you try something new like that, you can go, actually, that's actually quite nice. I'm going to eat that again. I'm going to have that again next week, or I'll have it again tomorrow because it's actually quite nice. I tell you the biggest thing. So when people ask me about like my biggest tips, if you like, one of my biggest tips is learn to cook. Because if you learn to cook, you know exactly what you're putting into your meals then. Rather than buying shop bought sauces or recipes or ready meals, what have you, if you make something, if you're able to learn and make something from scratch, you know exactly how much is going into your meals and exactly what makes up that meal. You can add more veg to it if you want. You can add more good stuff. And it's just, again, it's not, you hear these things about fakeaways. If you were to go and buy Domino's, for example, and have one of their pizzas, you're talking the best part of 1,500 to 2,000 calories just for that pizza. But if you go away and make a dough out of Greek yogurt and flour, I use light cheese and tomato puree and toppings that are good for you, you're going to save yourself like a good 1,000 calories and get the same satisfaction of having that pizza. So it's little things like that that I would recommend people to look into and just learn about it. It's not hard, air fryers now make it so easy. So it's not a hard thing to do, Even slow cookers, you bung it all in, come back, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours later, and it's all done for you. So, yeah, there's loads of things on TikTok and Instagram, like the reels. I've got so many reels saved, honestly, of meals to try. But that's my biggest tip. And if you do that, that will in turn change your relationship with food, I promise you.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked a lot about man v fat. We need to talk about football. So, what was your experience like on the pitch?
Well, so
Were you good at football? Was football a thing for you?
no, that's a
No.
short answer. That's a short answer, and that's because I'm registered as sight impaired. I'm blind in one eye. I have been since birth. I have a condition. I don't expect anybody to know what this is, but I have a sight condition called bilateral coloboma. It's basically where the eye doesn't fully develop during the mother's pregnancy. So most people who have it in one eye. I have it in both. I'm one of about. When I was born, I was one of 10,000 worldwide. That figure's probably gone up now because that was like 33 years ago, but it's still quite rare to have it in both eyes. So I didn't learn to walk until I was 22 months old. So as you can imagine, running around and that sort of thing, and being aware of other people and the fast nature of football. Even when you play with bigger lads and it is slowed down, it's still quite fast paced. It is still quite a fast nature of sport. So I did find that side of it quite hard. I remember when I first joined, the captain was an Irish fella, and he used to call me he used to say something like "you big bollocks" or something like that, an Irish phrase, because I used to lose the ball a lot and not pass to the right player. And he did get me a little bit, but he was only there, luckily, for about 4 or 5 weeks before we left. And then we got a new captain. Well, one of the other lads sort of got nominated as captain. He was a lot better, a lot nicer about things. So yeah, no, football was never really a thing for me growing in terms of playing. Loved watching it, but never really played it. I would try, but I couldn't even see the ball, let alone kick it. So it was a bit difficult. But again, going back to sort of Man v Fat and the why it worked, the fact that I could contribute goals off the pitch was was massive, because I thought, well, what I like on the pitch, I can bring off it. I could score hat tricks and goals off it because I'm turning up every week and I'm losing the most out of my team, the most out of some of the lads, some weeks as well. We used to have, you used to get bonus goals. If you were the biggest loser that week, I think you get 3 more bonus goals. And that used to tip results in our favour. So I was contributing in that way. So it never felt like what I lacked on the pitch was affecting me. It never felt like that. But I do remember, funnily enough, I think I ever scored 2 goals in my entire time there, in the 18 months that I was there. But the first one that I hit, I've never hit a ball sweeter in my life. And it went in top corner, and I screamed for dear heaven, like, just celebrate. Like, I was that close to doing a gigs there and taking my shirt off and wheeling it around like he did in
Love
Miller
that.
Park in '99. But then, literally, with the game restarting, and my teammates like, "Come on," because obviously you don't go back to the centre circle or anything like you would do in a normal game, and have that sort of 30 seconds to celebrate. Is literally a keeper picked the ball out of the net, and they were all back down the other pitch. He's like, "Come on, get back, defenders!" Like, oh god, yeah. So I had no time to sort of celebrate. But that evening, as I go back to sort of the WhatsApp chats and that, the big Manchester League chat was tagging me and saying like, well done on scoring your first goal. It was a cracking hit, and it's been a long time coming. So yeah, and I think my last goal came in my last ever game, and I missed it. It was a proper P-roller. I went in. I was like, all right, is it good in? All right, yeah, cheers. Yeah, so I was never really sort of any good at playing football, but I'm one of them. Like, I'll try anything. I'll give it a go. I'll try my best. It's all about just turning up and enjoying it, and that's what I did. That was the biggest thing. I enjoyed it, even though I wasn't the best player in the world. I enjoyed it, and that's the main thing with it. When you turn up to play any sport, really.
Kind of leads me on to the next part. So how important is like the social aspect and the community of Man v Fat and helping blokes lose the weight?
Yeah, it's massive, definitely. I said before about having that support network and that community, and just having that banter and camaraderie, if you like. That's a big word for me. That. Just having all of that there is massive. And building that support network, because as I said before, it's about people there for the same thing. It's the same. Everyone's got the same goal. Everyone wants to do well. Everyone wants to spur each other on. So yeah, it's a huge thing, definitely.
Awesome. Okay, and now let's look towards sort of life now. So what does life look like now in terms of sort of food, fitness, routines?
Yeah, routine is a big thing actually. Yeah, a big fan of routine because now, so post after having me weight loss, me excess skin removal surgery, when I come round, literally like the day after when I come round after it, I was like, when can I go back exercising? I was like, hold on a minute, just learn to walk before you can run here. Like you've been through a big thing here. Like you need to recover. And he said, it would be a few months before you can return to like light exercise, and then more strenuous stuff's going to be a few more months down the line. Um, so I had to say, I had my operation on Halloween. My birthday's the 20th of December, and I had one of my checkups on my birthday. I remember I had to come down and go to Withington Hospital. And my surgeon says I'm quite happy with how that's healing. After Christmas, I would say just start doing light exercise. I took that as my cue, a program to give us a little bit of a kickstart in January last year, so January 24. We did a 10-week sort of initial, like, even though I'd been to the gym before and I'd done work with traders before, I knew that I would have to essentially restart again. So we did like an intro to the gym sort of thing. Got introduced to machines and things that I'd never really looked at before. Different movements, understood why we did those movements, understood how they related to the nutrition side of things as well, and about the balance and everything with that. And again, it's just been a bit more. It's been throughout everything. It's been an education, but that's definitely been a bit more of an education, really. And never in my life did I ever envisage myself being in a position where I would go to the gym 3-4 times a week. But that's what I'm doing now, and I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. And as I say, I go with a friend of mine. And again, I mentioned before about support network. Myself and my friend, we keep each other accountable. So if there's days when I think, I can't really be asked today, he drags me up and we go. And if there's days when he thinks the same, I drag him up and we go. And it's embedded into routine now. It's become a habit, and that's what it's all about. It's about building healthy habits and changing your entire life. If you want to sustain it, if you want to lose it and keep it off and sustain it, you have to change everything about your lifestyle. It can't just be the diet, it has to be everything else that goes with it. And it can be overwhelming. But as I said to you before, it's the little things, the little changes. If you start doing little changes, eventually they just become routine and they just become habit, and you don't even think about them. And that's the point where I'm at now. I do things now that I found hard at the start, but now I don't even think about them. It's just part of my everyday routine, and that's just because I've built it up over time. And you will get to that point. I promise you, if you keep at it and you keep doing it and you keep in the routine, you will get to that point where it just becomes so easy for you. It really will.
I love that. I'm going to kind of lead on to my next question anyway. Actually, when it was what did you find harder? Was it losing the weight or was it maintaining the weight?
Or maintain it's harder to keep it, thinking it off by a long stretch. People ask me this question all the time, and I say, yeah, maintaining is so much harder. I think people say, well, why is that? I say, well, it's because when you're going for it, in terms of wanting to lose weight, you have that deficit, and you're always in that deficit. And if you add exercise on top of it, you are always going to be under a certain amount for you to hit that is going to see you lose and drop weight. Having to then bump the calories up whilst keeping the output the same in terms of exercise, um, and making sure that you're not overeating and under exercising, or not over exercising and under eating, so that you're still losing, you're dropping more weight than you actually need to. It's hard. It's just about finding that balance. And I said at the start about trial and error. It was when I hit that first target and even the second target of 60, it was a lot of trial and error, because some weeks I'd go up and I go up a lot and I think, whoa, I need to hold back a bit here now. And other weeks I'd go right down. I think the lowest I've ever been was like 93 kilo. I was like, no, that's for someone of my height. I need to, and my build as well. I need to sort of get myself back safely to a decent point. And it's just about finding that balance. But yeah, maintaining is so much harder than losing. I think it is anyway. Other people might disagree who've lost a significant amount, have kept it off for a long time. But yeah, I find maintaining, because it's that thing as well of making sure as well that you don't slip back into old habits. That's a big thing. You know, and if I ever sort of do look at it and think, oh, hold on a minute, you know, there's eating habits, there's other things coming in that the old Josh used to have. That's when I do sort of put the brakes on then and go back and hit that reset button and get myself back on track, as it were. So yeah, I'd say yeah, maintaining's a lot harder, I find. So anyway,
Where are you now then, Josh? Are you wanting to lose a bit more? Are you sort of at that optimal weight, would you say?
yeah, 100%. There's I don't want to do any more. I don't want to put my body through it for a start. And it's just all about maintenance now for me. It's about getting the shape in. And I've got, it's weird because on Friday I did, my trainer asked me to do a next lot of pictures, and comparing that to 18 months ago when I started, just after having my operation. And I mean, in that first picture, there is still a lot of swelling, because I was only 2 months, well, 3 months, I think it was, post surgery. So there's still a lot of swelling and everything there. But just seeing the shape of the back, and the posture, everything has changed in that respect. And that's where I'm at. That's what I want to do. I just want to keep that shape in now, um, and just sort of mold myself into what I've always sort of envisioned. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't look like having a six pack. I will never have a six pack. I don't want a six pack. I don't want to be dead muscular. It's something that I've never wanted that, but at the same time, I've never wanted to look lanky and ill with it. And I did get to. There is a picture that I've got where I was close to 10 stone loss as opposed to sort of 9. Um, I started looking at it and gone, that's when I went a bit too far. And people told me, said, you need to, you becoming a bit too obsessive here now. You maybe need to come back a bit. And that's when I decided to sort of up the protein intake and up the calories a little bit. I look to add a bit of muscle, and that's where I'm at now with things, really. And hopefully, again, this is something that I said in the video. Hopefully, I sort of keep that going for the rest of my life. I've always said I'd do it till the wheels fall off, and the wheels haven't fell off yet, and hopefully they never do. So fingers crossed on that aspect.
Hopefully not, mate. Absolutely. Just a couple of fun, quick fire questions more than anything. What's your favourite healthy meal?
Favorite healthy meal? I love, my favorite meal actually is pasta with chicken, spinach, and pesto, all mixed up together in a bowl. That is my absolute favorite. I must eat that 2 or 3 times a week, I'll be honest, but it's my absolute favorite. I love it. Anything based with pasta, really. But again, it's just going back to that portion control, so I don't have loads of it, but I do love it. And I would say I probably meal prep that for my dinners at work. I'd say in a month, I probably have it. I say at least 2 weeks out of the 4 or 5, and everyone at work goes, God, you having that again? It's like, yeah, because I like it. It's nice. It's healthy. So yeah, that's what I have. My absolute favourite meal, that one.
What about a go-to cheat meal?
If I can keep it free and get through the weekend, and the Monday night, I'm like, right, I'll have a cheat. And I would say 99 times out of 100, it is just cheese sandwiches. Even though I have to have gluten-free bread. Yeah. Even though I have to have gluten-free bread now, which tastes like cardboard. But I love it. And again, that's something that when Roman and Stuart and my VFAT asked me about that, they asked me that exact question a couple of years back, and I said I can tell you exactly what it is. And yeah, cheese sandwiches, cheese butties, love it.
Your favourite Man v Fat team name?
Oh, there's bits of corkers, aren't there? Mine was a bit boring. The one that mine was just Slim Downtown, which I thought was a bit boring.
Downtown. I like that.
Yeah, Slim Downtown. That's what we were. But I always thought it was a bit boring. I did try and change it, but there are some corkers. I remember we had. I think Obesity is one that's adapted by a lot of different leagues. Atletico Madrid have seen. What's the other one? Borussia Mönchen Fatback I've seen. There's loads of different ones. I mean, if I went on the group now and seen some team names, I'd reel them off, but there's some corkers, definitely. Nowadays, it's probably my fitness pal. Like I said, I never used to really tracking that, but I've been encouraged to do so over the last sort of 18 months with this gym program that I'm doing. So that's probably what I swear by nowadays. But I would say I've got my smartwatch and I have the steps sort of widget on the bottom of it. And that's something that I've sworn by for a lot of years. I've always sort of tried to get my steps in and hit a step goal every day. Especially, as I said before, with my sight loss, that means that I'm not allowed to drive as well. So I have to get around by foot most times to get from A to B. So I've always done throughout my journey, and I hate that word, but it is what it is. For my mission, I've always wanted to, hit a step goal and get the walking in. So yeah, I'd say sort of the health apps that you get on your phone, like your Samsung Health. That's something that I've always sort of used and utilised really as well.
That's brilliant. And so, of all the things that you know now and your experience that you have now, what's the one thing you wish you knew right back when you started?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. So yeah, it's one of them. Again, people have asked me sort of similar to that before. So like, if you could go back and tell before you, or show before you now, what would you say to him? I don't think he'd have listened. In all honesty, I really don't. If I looked at him and gone, yeah, whatever. So I don't know in that respect. To be honest with you, I couldn't really put a finger on any one thing because there's so much that I have learned over the last sort of 8 years of doing this. Genuinely, wouldn't be one thing that I'd pick out. It'd be a number of things. But I think if I got pushed for it, I would just say what I've already said with this about little changes added up to the big one. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't think, oh God, this is what I've got to do. Because that's it. I never took that approach at the start. Literally the case of next week, and hopefully it says less than what it did this week. And if it does, then great. So that's what I've got. I sort of give the advice I give myself. I practice what I preach in terms of saying little things, just the little targets will add up to the big goal in the end.
I think that's probably a good way to round it up there, Josh. But the message is those little things all add up. Making those small changes will add up and have a big impact on your weight loss.
100%, absolutely, yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Josh. But just to remind people, it was 60 kilos that you've lost, just under 9.5 stone in old money.
Yep.
You're a Man v Fat Hall of Fame. That's a fantastic achievement. And yeah, we're delighted to have you on the Big Fellas podcast. And yeah, we're sure that your story will help inspire others. So yeah, thanks for coming on, mate.
Thank you very much for having me. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.